So a couple quick things. Just as a reminder, I just want to ask folks, there'll be lots of photos and that, but if you could at least silence the cell phone, that would be helpful. Not just for the testimony, but we're obviously going to have a couple different things that we're talking about today. As it is Old Man of the Mountain Day here, we're going to be celebrating that and signing a bill for that, and really recognizing the 20th anniversary of the unfortunate falling of the old man. And we have a lot of folks here to kind of recognize that day and tell their stories. But, Councillor Kenny, I'll kick it off to you. We'll be doing the prayer and pledge.
Yes, Governor, I'm going to kick it off to Pastor Walker.
Is he here?
Is he here? Okay. There he comes, making the dramatic entrance.
Seated alphabetically back there.
Nice to see you.
Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Pastor Todd Walker from Crossroads Church in Littleton. It's a pleasure to be here. I represent the North Country. I've been called to pray over this proceeding, so let's bow and pray right now and give this to the Lord. Father, we're grateful to be here at the Granite State together as we commemorate this special day, a special but somber day of the falling of the man of the mountain. We just are grateful for the legacy it represents, thankful for the time that we were given with it, and we just are so grateful for the memory that it provides. Father, maybe it even reminds us that there is one rock that stands secure forever, the Lord Jesus Christ. Help us remember that His rock will remain, and those who build their lives upon that rock will never fall. Father, I pray His blessing over these proceedings today, and ask that today would be a day of memory, a day of legacy, and just ask that God would be glorified in all we do and say today. In the light of Jesus Christ we shine. We thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I was going to ask, we have a veteran here from Vietnam, Gilly Restera. And Gilly, would you stand up here? This is a gentleman here that does a lot for the MIA, POW issues around the state for years. And he goes to vigils down in Meredith to recognize the POWs that have been missing for the last, I think we've been doing it for the last over 30 years in Meredith. But Gilly was April 13th, 1969, he was shot in northern Vietnam, and he was medevaced and he was taken out of Vietnam. And just recently, we recognized him with a Purple Heart marker in Meredith. And so it was a great commemoration about 10 days ago, along with two other veterans. So welcome home, Gilly. And would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? He was with, I got to say your unit number. So you were Charlie Company, 1st Battalion, 4th Marines, 3rd Marine Division.
Yes, sir.
Please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Hoorah! And
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Carry on. Okay, now before we get to kind of the, I don't think it's a somber day on the old man, but we'll get to that in a minute. I think it's a great day to remember what the old man exemplifies. But we always like to talk about folks across the state that do amazing things, whether they're organizations or as individuals, celebrate their achievements, what they've done for their communities. And so we are here to present, if Councillor Kenny wants to join me, a commendation for Sheila Colson from Rochester. Is Sheila here? I know she's here. Let's give Sheila a hand. Now everyone's wondering, why are we giving Sheila a hand? Right? 32 years as the Rochester softball coach.
Yes, this is probably next to softball.
One of the winningest coaches in the state, in history. The winningest, definitely, in quality in Rochester.
Yes.
And I figured, is it true that are you getting like a whole field in that?
I am getting the field named after me tomorrow night in my name or silver.
Oh, congratulations. That's wonderful.
Hopefully the weather holds off, so.
Now, is you retired? Are we talking retirement here? No.
Oh gosh, no.
Okay, good.
I have another 10 years to teach them, so.
There you go. Excellent. And how's the year been going?
Good. We're 7-1,
Okay.
so school School year's going all right.
All right.
Best job in the world is a PE teacher, so.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. Hey, how are you, sir? Yeah, come on, David. Hey, how are you? Hey, how are you?
So now,
My children, my son.
election back out there, Donnie was the first softball coach at Spalding High School.
Oh, my goodness.
Husband was Frank Allen, who served in the legislature for many years.
Oh, that's great. Now, how many years were you the softball coach?
I was only 45, 7 kids and a 7.
You had other activities.
You're not a bad girl.
Is that true?
Yes, yeah, I was 10 years old.
Oh, that is wonderful. That is wonderful.
Yes.
Okay, so we have a commendation recognizing Sheila Colson. Whereas Sheila Colson has been coaching softball at Spalding High School in Rochester since March of 1991, an impressive 32-year career supporting both the school and local girls in athletics. And whereas Coach Colson has achieved the most victories in Spalding High School girls sports history with a record of 354 wins and 237 losses. We won't talk about those though. And whereas Sheila has been a staunch advocate and supporter of female athletics and students in many capacities, which has earned her the Carol Dosebren Award for Advancement in Girls Sports from the New Hampshire Interscholastic Athletic Association. And whereas Coach Colson has earned the Coach of the Year honor 3 times in her career from the New Hampshire Softball Coaches Association and has 4 softball players earn the association's Player of the Year Award. And whereas Sheila has led her teams to the state tournaments every year of her tenure except one, and again, we won't talk about that one, with their teams making it to the finals in 2014 and 2018, and whereas Coach Colson has prepared and sent over 150 student athletes to play softball in college, and her legacy as a mentor and a leader to the young women she has coached over the last 32 years has left a lasting legacy at Spalding High School. Now, therefore, I, Christopher T. Sununu, Governor of the State of New Hampshire, do hereby commend Sheila Colson for all that she has done for her community and the sport of softball, and wish her all the best in the future. Congratulations. What's yours? Great, excellent.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Mine to be over tomorrow night.
That is cool. Thank you.
Oh, thanks for your ride. Okay, so to kick off again, the day honoring that unfortunately that the old man has fallen, we're going to do a couple things. We have a piece of art that we're going to accept. We have a bill that we're actually going to sign. I don't know if we've actually done a bill signing in council chambers like this before, but we're going to do it because that's what we're always about, doing things a little different. And we have Rick and Bob. If you guys haven't heard, well, this is Rick and Bob, obviously. And you guys heard a song before the old, recognizing the old man.
Brandon Evan Richard, wrote a song called Great Stone Face last fall. The song follows the novel by Nathaniel Hawthorne, or it's got references in the song. We wrote it long before the 20th anniversary of that came into play here, and was honored to be asked to perform the song today. And with me is my longtime friend and one of the best bassists ever to come out in New England, Bob Dick, and we'll perform Great Stone Face.
Protecting their dreams. The young boy believed, for all he was worth, Stone Face was kindness, born of this earth. father was ice to mother the rain. Bitter cold ran through his branded veins. Stone face was noble, his heart it was warm. Behind that face was a gathering storm. He lived in a state of grace. No one could ever replace the great stone face. The great stone face. One moonless night, no one around. Great stone face finally crashed to the ground. Townsfolk looked up at the first light of dawn. Could not believe the old man was gone. He lived in a state of grace. No one could ever replace great stone face. Great stone face. Lord lived his life on the same mountainside, gathered wisdom and kindness, but known far and wide. As he grew old, people would say that he looked just like that great stone face. He lived in a state of grace. Some say he was born to replace great stone face. The great stone face.
We're going to do a photo. That was terrific. Thank you. So when exactly did you work there? Oh, no, we'll keep them in the photo. Yeah, we'll keep them in the photo. When did you work there? Oh, last fall. Oh, okay. You should hold the card. That would be way cool. Chris, the card over here. Oh, yes. Nope. Great. Excellent. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Now, Commissioner Stewart is out here. Commissioner Stewart, how are you? I'm wonderful. Come on up. So, we do have Ron, I think it's Ketchy. I'm saying that right? That's what I've always said. So, Ron Ketchy. Ron Ketchy has done, is it a glass etching? Yes. I think that is going to be donated to the state here. Put it right up if you can. And technically a donation that will be accepted by Commissioner Stewart, who oversees all of the arts. Is it in there? Yes, it is. Okay. Yeah, I'll let you do the unveiling. Great.
Thank you, Governor, Commissioner, Attorney General, members all, ladies and gentlemen. It's a privilege to be here today to make this presentation of I guess it's an item that's dear to my heart. I want a lot of people to see this, and when they see the stone face, they'll say, yeah, that's him, that's what he looks like. Even the new people who have never seen him will say, wow, that's what he looks like. And I hope it's in a prominent place where a lot of people will see it. So I'd like to, at this time, with your permission,
Sure, please.
to make a mess here.
Now, where did this come from originally?
Originally, what happened was I spent some time on the Old Man of the Mountain recording Dave and Deb Nielsen's repair with their crew. And I fell in love with the old man because I actually fell asleep on him. And I stood on his forehead and looked 1,200 feet down and took movies. And from then on, I was hooked. I went to yard sales, flea markets, every place I could, and I collected everything I could, especially postcards. This particular postcard is the one that this was made from. I was made aware of a fellow that had an etching company in Phoenix, Arizona, and I sent him this, and this is what he sent me. And I was so proud to receive it. And what I'll do is, this is the base. quite heavy, so. Give you the old man. Oh, that's beautiful.
So the council will join us up, we're going to do one picture before we, where are we going to put it?
Well, we're going to make sure that it has the visibility it deserves. So we're looking for a spot at Franconia Notch State Park where the public can view where it's from.
Okay, great, that's wonderful.
Here, why don't the council join us and we'll take a photo?
You're the star.
To the left. Now the right. All right, now right here. Great.
Thank you all very much.
All right. We're going to leave this right here. Are we going to do this? Yeah. Okay, great. Let's leave it right here. Okay. I'll let you, Brando, I'll let you. Hey, how are you? Almost as good as you. Awesome. No, come on up. It's great to hear. Come on up, you guys. And Lee, where's Lee Wilder? Was he able to join us? Lee runs the old man of the Mountain Legacy Fund. Was Lee? Right here. All right. And then I know we have a bunch of the senators and the reps that kind of help make this bill actually possible. If they want to join us up here, great. All right, sir. And then I'm going to ask all the councilors to join us too. Yeah, come on up. I got to teach the council what a bill signing is. This is the one part of government they don't get to see. To be sure. So, I'm not going to introduce everyone up there, or maybe I will. I'm not 100% sure. So, we all have a story, right? This is something I was thinking about this morning. We all have a story, and a lot of people on this day tell their story of where they were when the old man fell, right? Somebody asked me this morning, the first thing I thought of was, I'm from a big family, as a lot of folks know. 8 of us crammed into a station wagon, and anytime my dad wanted to come up north, because my dad grew up in Queens, and he loved New Hampshire, he loved being outside, and he really loved the old man, and I always make sure that we had a chance to stop. But if we didn't have a chance to stop, and you were crammed as number 7 of the 8 kids in the way back of the station wagon, I think that's illegal now, we'll have to ask. I don't know. You're crammed in there. And the best you could do was put your face against the glass and try to catch it just as you're driving by in the notch, and hopefully you saw it, and it was a whole thing every time we passed it. But it really, obviously, the old man, it represents the resiliency, not just a symbol of New Hampshire, not just a pastime of New Hampshire, but really the resiliency. There's a reason they call us the Granite State, right? And it's something that, while he's not here anymore, obviously we all kind of, I think, do our extra part to carry what that represented for the entire state. Now, we have Dave Nielsen here, who, I guess Neil was the last official caretaker, no? Oh, well, you were?
Yes.
Okay. So, how long have you been the caretaker?
Since 1991.
Oh, is that right? Gee, I feel bad. I always gave Dad all the credit. I don't give him all the credit.
Deserved it.
He did. Did some pretty incredible stuff. But people don't realize there was a lot of work that went into preserving him. If you did have an opportunity, like some of us did, to actually go up there before he fell, I mean, all the rebar and the chain and everything that went into really keeping it together as long as you possibly could. So, he didn't make it any less shocking. Who is here is Senator Bradley, tell his stories of walking under his chin.
Rock climbing.
Rock climbing under the chin.
Hardest climb I ever did.
Is that true? Really? That's a lot coming from you. That's definitely a lot. And the legacy fund, right? So we have the legacy fund, which has raised a lot of money to actually still maintain a presence in Franconia Notch. So when folks do stop, they can at least get a sense of the old man. They can actually go to the, what do we call it, the profile?
Profile plaza.
Profile plaza.
So if
Yeah.
you stand in the right place for your height, using one of the profilers, you can put the old man back on the foot.
Right. Which is, I think is so cool. Really.
It's interactive and people, you know, they just, there's the amazement that they, when they finally see it.
Yeah. It's pretty incredible. So I'm going to tell you one more quick story, because this is a good chance to make fun of my father, and I never had a chance on that. So the day it fell, my father's there, just absolutely devastated 20 years ago today. And he called me up and he goes, I think we can put it together. I said, I don't know. You're the engineer, I'm the geologist, I'm telling you, I don't know if you're going to put a million pieces back together. But the reason I tell that story is because in that moment, it was I don't want to call it panic, but it was almost desperation to do anything we can to undo, right, what just happened. How do we make what just happened not happen, right? And I think everyone kind of had that moment. Unfortunately, the reality obviously was that a million pieces later, unfortunately, the old man was sitting below. But it took a lot of people to maintain it. It took a lot of people to create Profile Plaza and the Legacy Fund and all the donations that came in to actually make that happen. And a lot of folks that are still up in Franconia. I see we got JD, still ski Cannon Mountain. Buy your season passes now. Always be selling it. But all the folks in your entire team up there that kind of really make sure that not just the legacy of the land, but what Franconia Notch as a whole is all about. 12 months out of the year, it really stands true, and it's still something that we can make incredibly proud of. So with that, let's sign a bill. Jeff. I noticed Jeff Bradley signed his before I signed it. People never see it. So people always think bills come in these big fancy folders, and they don't. They come in these kind of really frugal, Kinko's red folders. But I couldn't help but notice Senate President Bradley signed his name with a nice long line to the governor's area. As if to say, we know who's really in charge. Message received. Okay, let's do this. If everyone can get it nice and tight, and we'll take a picture before we actually sign it. If that's okay. Great. All right, so let's do the whole thing where we look a little left. And now a little bit right. Here we go. And what we're going to do is let's do one more picture. Get someone pull the chart out of the way. Whoops, sorry, I'm sorry. Here, we'll do this over, we'll do the next picture, we'll all get it really tight, we got the signed bill, everyone's still coming in. Everyone right here, 3, 2, 1. Great, thank you guys very much. really didn't, I mean, if I'm going, I didn't know. The whole connection. Check this Okay, so moving forward, I will officially call this meeting of the Governor and Executive Council to order. I'm going to begin by asking for a motion to approve the meeting minutes from our April 12, 2023 meeting. Any discussion? Councilwoman?
I think that we're going to amend the nomination of Brian Martineau to serve on the advisory board of private investigative agencies, and indicate that he would be nominated to serve in the New Hampshire licensed investigator position, but actually he's being nominated to serve in the security guard.
Thank you. We will definitely make a note of the correction. Any other changes or questions on the meeting minutes? Okay, hearing none, all in favor of accepting the meeting minutes, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? With that, the meeting minutes are accepted. Next, from the Office of Secretary of State, we have our civil commissions. Could I begin by asking for a motion to accept the lists of to confirm the list of civil commissions? Motion second. Are there any additional names to place on the confirmation list? Councilor Kenny?
Mr. Governor, from Frank Tanya Brown, as a notary, and secondly, Senator Sandwich, Abigail Quinn, as a notary.
Any other names to add to the confirmation list? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of the confirmation list with the two additional names amended to it, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That list is approved. That the matter of civil commissions is concluded. There are a couple of resignations to accept today. From the Aviation Users Advisory Board, could I please have a motion to accept the resignation of Lori Bottolato of Portsmouth?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of accepting the resignation, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Lori's resignation is accepted. From the Board of Dental Examiners, could I have a motion to accept the resignation of Lisa Scott of Hooksett?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Lisa's resignation is accepted. As a Justice of the New Hampshire Circuit Court, could I please have a motion to accept the resignation of William Lyons of Manchester?
So moved.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Justice Lyons' resignation is accepted. That concludes our resignations for today. We have a few folks to confirm. Could I begin by asking for a motion to confirm Brian Martin of Manchester to the Advisory Board of Private Investigative Agencies, Bail Recovery Agents, and Security Services?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? With that, Brian's confirmation is confirmed. Can I please have a motion to confirm Matt Tripori of Manchester to the Advisory Council on Unemployment Compensation?
So moved.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That Matt is confirmed. Could I have a motion to confirm Matthew Scruton of Rochester to the Agricultural Advisory Board?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That Matt is confirmed. Could I have a motion to confirm Megan Hoskins of Manchester as the Assistant Director for New Hampshire Homeland Security and Emergency Management within the Department of Safety?
Second.
Any discussion? Councillor Stevens.
Our reputation, our status as being the safest state in the nation is only going to grow with the addition of Megan Hoskins as the Assistant Director. She served our state so far for 12 years as the Assistant Chief of Preparedness and Response. She's a veteran, and she will be able to transition to the EMPG program, HMEP, radiological emergency preparedness, school safety preparation. She's a star, and we're in great hands with her. So well done.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, seeing no further discussion, all in favor of Megan, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? With that, she's confirmed. Could I have a motion to confirm Sean Buck-of-Bow as the Director of the New Hampshire State Veterans Cemetery for the Department of Military Affairs and Veteran Services?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? I'm going to put my 2 cents in. If you have not been to the State Veteran Cemetery, you got to go. It is literally ranked as the best in the country, and Sean deserves a lot of credit, and his predecessors. It's really awesome. So it's great that they're formally recognizing him as the director. Memorial Day services coming up. Great time to go. Everyone shows up on Memorial Day. But anyway, okay. Seeing no further discussion on Sean, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? With that, Sean is confirmed. Could I have a motion to confirm William Oldenburg of Bow as the Director of Project Development for the Department of Transportation?
So moved.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Oh, sorry, Councilor.
Yeah, I just want to give our thanks for Peter Sims for his resignation.
Thank you. Peter did a fantastic job. Any further discussion? Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? With that, William is confirmed. Could I have a motion to confirm Christine Clinton of Dublin to the Independent Investment Committee?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? With that, Christine is confirmed. And finally, could I have a motion to confirm Andrea Lamoureux of Plymouth to the Public Water Access Advisory Board?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Andrea. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It is confirmed, and that concludes our confirmations for today.
So,
Yeah.
Mayor, here, but we do not have River Valley Sports and Recreation.
Did I miss it?
It's on
No.
Steve's list.
Oh, Steve isn't on here. Sorry.
He is on the list, he's not on your script.
Okay.
You can bring him in right now.
Sure, let me just put it in the right way.
I apologize.
I didn't know if you later withdrawn something.
No, that's just me.
Okay, great. Okay, could I have a motion to confirm Steve Slavinsky of Lee to the Merrimack River Valley Flood Control Commission?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Councilor Kennedy?
I just want to say he does exist. I had a wonderful conversation with him, and he explained why we have a Merrimack River Valley Flood Control Commission and how they've worked over the last several years to get $3 million from the state of Massachusetts to help support that commission and the great work it does. And of course, every time there's flooding that goes on in the state and that part of the state, you got to go to this commission and say, hey, what's going on? How can we make it better?
Especially this week. I mean, obviously, there's big issues all across the state this week. Steve is also definitely one of those guys where if there's a hole to fill, he'll stand up and do whatever you need him to do. I love it. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? With that, Mr. Slavinsky is confirmed. Thank you, Councilor Kennedy. I do have a few nominations to read into the record. To the Aviation Users Advisory Board, I nominate Andrew Pomeroy of North Berwick, Maine. To the Board of Medicine, I nominate Daniel Frazee of Auburn. As the Director of Waste Management for the Department of Environmental Services, I nominate Michael Wimsatt of Concord. To the Fish and Game Commission, I nominate Megan Hodgson of Stratham. To the New Hampshire Health and Education Facilities Authority, I nominate Margaret Fork Dolan of Hooksett. To the New Hampshire Retirement System Board of Trustees, I nominate Jason Henry of Barnstead and Maureen Kelleher of Dover. To the Pease Development Authority, I nominate Stephen Dubry of Concord. To the Pesticides Control Board, I nominate Cheryl Smith of Nottingham. And to the State Board of Fire Control, I nominate Stephen Freitas of Salem. That concludes the nominations for today. Moving on, we have our consent calendar agenda. I'll begin by asking for a motion to adopt the consent calendar agenda. So moved.
Second?
There's a motion, there's a second. Are there any questions or items to be removed for further discussion? Councilor Kenny?
3A.
3A. Thank you very much. Any other items to be removed for further discussion? Okay. Hearing no other concerns, all in favor of the consent calendar agenda, with the exception of item 3A, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, those items are confirmed. Can I have a motion to adopt consent calendar agenda item 3A?
So moved.
Second, thank you very much. Councilor Kenny, I'm going to assume you have a question.
I do.
Is it more have to do with private citizens?
No, it's actually,
Or yeah, it could be the university system. Or HEPA. A little bit of everybody.
I'll stand here.
Yeah. Good morning.
So I did have a question about this. So is it Echo Hall? Is that the image that's being renovated?
Good morning, Kathy Van Stryker, the Chief Administrative Officer for State University System. It's Etzel Hall, right, UNH. Right in the middle of campus, iconic building. It's been shuttered for 5 years. And
So no students have lived in here for 5 years?
correct.
So it's empty, it's a ghost town? Okay.
And it's costing us money to keep it shuttered. And we anticipate requiring sophomores to live on campus in the fall of '24, consistent with other flagships around New England, and that's going to increase capacity for housing.
So, and that's great, we need housing, we have a youth college students. But my question is, it's 40,000 square feet, okay? We're going to do a major rehabilitation. You're asking for a bond of 30 million, is it? And so how much of that is actually going to go into that building?
So the total project cost is about $26.5 million. It's up to $30 million is the authorization. We expect the total all-in cost will probably be around $29 million. But the construction project cost is about $26.5 million.
And you feel comfortable as former state treasurer that you have the interest rates and the student population to sustain this project, funding aspect of it in the future?
Yes, absolutely. We actually expect a pickup in revenue net after all the students are living in the facility.
Okay. All right. And the other question I had was the historical building. Does it have to go through some historical qualification?
I don't believe so. Counselor. I will confirm that. If I'm not correct, I'll make sure I get back to the council.
And the UNH Board of Trustees support this?
Oh, yes, we've been through multiple approvals. We've been through the Board of Trustees, the Capital Budget Overview Committee, HEPA, a hearing with Councilor Wilmington. So yes, we've been through multiple approvals.
And my last question, would you have hearings like this in Durham? I'm sure Council Kenny is at the head of the division.
I'll have to talk to the governor about that.
It's Durham.
I know.
Okay. Thank you.
The project also includes the refinancing of $140 million in bonds
Right.
out of the universities.
Right.
I would definitely have my passport stamped if I
Councilor Colin Austin and I did joint meetings together, and we had mutual interests. So. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, guys. Were there any other questions on this item? Okay. Hearing none, all in favor of consent calendar agenda item 3A, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The item is approved. move on to our regular agenda. I'll begin by asking for a motion to adopt agenda items 6 and 7 from the Department of Health and Human Services from the Office of the Commissioner.
Second.
Any discussion on items 6 or 7? Okay, hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Those items are approved. I'll now ask for a motion to adopt agenda items 8 through 15 from the Department of Health and Human Services from the Division of Behavioral Health. Motion and a second. Any discussion on any of those items? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Those items are approved. I'll now ask for a motion to adopt agenda item 16 from the Department of Health and Human Services from the Division of Medicaid Services. Any discussion? Councilor Ward.
Good morning. Board Member, Commissioner Jesse.
Commissioner, I'm very pleased to see this on the agenda today, finally. It's been in the works for a very, very long time. This is for the health first in an effort to take over management of the Mascoma Community Health Center in Canaan. And my biggest concern at this point is making sure that we expedite this process moving forward. You know, they have to go to charitable trust, so just ask that you work as closely with me as you can to make sure that this actually happens on time before the health center runs out of money, and so that this all can happen and we can continue to provide services.
Absolutely, it's definitely a priority to do that and get it done as quickly as possible.
Councilor Kenny.
So, Commissioner, how are you today? So I actually was here for the ribbon cutting ceremony in Mascoma Health Clinic back 7 years ago. And they were having funding problems when they were at the ribbon cutting ceremony. So it's good that we finally caught up to them and said, you need some help from other directions to make this sustainable. So I guess my question is, this is for a 5-year period that we're going to monitor this. We're going to, hopefully they're going to become federally qualified health center. How closely are you going to watch this project? Is it quarterly, monthly? I mean, obviously you're going to be providing a lot of healthcare services in that area of the state, but I just want to know, you're going to be right back to ground zero, 3 years from now.
I can have them talk about the controls and the oversight for them.
Good morning, Councilor Kenny. Good morning, Councilors. Henry Lippman, Medicaid Director. So in terms of this project, the state is a partner with an effort here to preserve Mascoma healthcare access. And with respect to the contracts before you, no money sort of leaves the state coffers until certain things are achieved. One of them being designation, because that's what changes the financial viability. We're certainly be in close contact with Health First in terms of making sure that we're being as supportive as we can. Part of our role later on will be when HRSA approves which we expect will happen, the extension to include Mascoma, that we then have to reset their rate and get them the advanced money. And we've done some pro forma stuff already, so we're ready to act on that as soon as that's available. That's probably the biggest thing we can do in the short run in terms of advancing it. I think that Director Charitable Trust has held her hearing to our understanding that she's got the information she needs to work through that. You might have more information than I do on that component of it, but I don't know if that helps answer the question.
Yeah, I have just a follow-up on the dental program. There was a dental program, it went away, and we were trying to reinstitute it. Is this set up?
So that's a great question. I think the implementation of the adult dental benefit, so that there's reimbursement available for dental services for adults, I think that's a big help. Secondly, we can look to see in our SLIP program under public health with respect to the student loan debt relief in terms of helping them recruit. My understanding on an informal basis is that they're looking into that potential already in terms of trying to bring back dental service there.
Great, thank you.
Councilor, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I have some questions here. This is all general fund money. Is this unusual or out of the ordinary that we're doing this way?
So we looked at working with our finance and with the executive branch in terms of looking at what were the options for funding, and general fund was what was available to do it. This isn't, in my tenure, this is the first time that we're almost 6 years into the position that we've had to do this. I'm hoping that it's sort of a one-off with respect to Federal Qualified Health Center and that kind of direct way that we're participating here.
Their balance sheets that are in the middle of this item say they have $4 million cash on hand, and they have that about that, give or take a little bit year after year. Why can't they do this with their own money instead of taxpayer money?
Well, I think that it's a great question. I think the situation here is that they are taking some risk in terms of entering into this, and I think the way that this is structured is it's sort of a community effort. You know, the commissioners in Grafton County have been providing funding to keep it going. There is, I guess, what I think that Health First is sort of stepping up to help, if you will, rescue the service, and they're asking, in effect, to have be a shared responsibility as opposed to just theirs alone. And I think that's the reason. As much as $4 million looks like a lot on their balance sheet, there's a lot of potential changes that could come in financing at a federal level to FQHCs, most notably 340B, their drug, which is one of the conditions in here, that if they lost that, there was a change that could materially affect their ongoing operations.
Can you explain how this loan works? And it was rather complicated. I'm not sure I got my head around it. They'll pay us back some of this money if certain triggers are met, and then if other triggers are met, they're forgiven. So can you explain that a little bit? It's kind of unusual.
Sure. And I think in terms of this coming together as a community kind of effort, it's, sometimes people look to the state alone to solve it. And this is, I think we're trying to play a role here, not the whole role. But of the 775, 750 that is in front of you, 275,750 is intended to just be sort of something that they would pay back over 36 months once, 30 months, 36 to 30 months. Then the second piece of it is forgiveness based on $500,000, but they have to, it's conditioned on them raising at least $500,000 in donations to support the effort.
Does that include from the county and town?
Yes, from private sources, charitable trusts and down to help that type of.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilor Steele?
Thanks for speaking with me regarding this contract. We know that they presently have over 5,500 patients, clients at this time, and more than 1,000 are Medicaid recipients, correct? They are one of the few providers that are accepting new patients at this time, correct?
There's a shortage of primary care, and they're filling a void. And this is, I think, in terms of addressing that void and being able to sustain it, this is a help.
Dartmouth is not accepting at this time, so it's critical that this be sustained.
To my understanding, Dartmouth is a strong supporter of this, and they're facing their challenges in terms of staffing as well.
Thank you.
Councilor Warmington?
And just for clarification, the $4 million that Councilor Wheeler referenced, that is on the Health First balance sheet, the buyer's balance sheet, not on Mascoma's balance sheet.
Correct.
In fact, Mascoma really needs this funding.
Mascoma, if this doesn't come through, not just this, but in total whole transaction, there may not be a service there.
Well, I support it. Well, I just wanted to comment that the town manager here, Mr. Sampson, represented town of Caney, and so obviously it means a lot to this community to keep this going.
Okay. Further discussion? Okay, all in favor of item 16, right? from Department of Health and Human Services, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 16 is approved. The room has gotten much crowded. Who do we have joining us today?
Freedom Elementary School.
Freedom! And who has the town of Freedom? One of my favorite general stores is Freedom. Well, it's run by volunteers. Great.
Counselor Kenny.
Counselor, oh, yes. I was like,
You're still in Durham. You're still in Durham. I just graduated. Boys and girls, how are you? You having a good day? You're in the 4th or 5th grade?
Third.
Third? Oh, okay, so everybody from Freedom's here, right? Okay, pretty much, right? Well, you guys have a great elementary school. Welcome to the State House and to the Executive Counselor meeting. You're probably wondering what's going on, but the governor's at the head of the table, right? You all know the governor for Sununu, right? Okay. We had a student last time, it wasn't so short, but that's great. And we're kind of like the board of directors, and we're helping the governor kind of manage the state of New Hampshire. So we vote on lots of things, lots of contracts. But I will say this, is that who wants to be a judge? Anybody want to be a judge someday? Okay. So we'll go ahead and get you kind of through the selection process. Once the governor nominates you, we can confirm you here right at the table. So you could be a young judge. I don't know if there's an age requirement. Is there?
there is not actually.
There's no age requirement, so we could probably make you a judge or an honorary judge at a relatively young age in the state of New Hampshire. But that's something we vote on. We work with the state parks. We work with anything that's state that you see in your community. We work with. And Freedom, there's not a lot of state government freedom. But so what's the old story with Effingham and Freedom? What happened? Do you know the history? What's the history, Margaret? Freedom used to be Effingham, and then they broke away, and they claimed their freedom. They became Freedom. Did you know that? You didn't know that? Okay. Well, anyway, welcome to the State House, and please line up and to meet the governor. Would you like to meet the governor? Okay. Don't be scared. He's friendly. Okay. So why don't you line right up there? And you guys, we're going to do the high fives as we come by.
Hi. How are you? What's your name?
Today's Old Man of the Mountain Day, right?
Nice to meet you.
You guys must have been on a long time.
It's so
You got 2 bow ties there. 3 bow ties.
Great day.
There you go.
Great day.
Boy, that's a long trip down to see Very well. Nice to see you. Nice to see everybody. How's everyone doing? Everybody's how you doing today? So the Patriots go. You got no other sports team you can root
So I believe the general store in Freedom is run by volunteers. Is it not? It's a beautiful general store, but it's only open certain hours because they have to have the volunteers. But great donuts, if you get there on the right day. Anyway.
It's great little sleepy community, that's great.
Part of my Advent everywhere. Okay, we'll continue by asking for a motion to adopt agenda items 17 and 17A from the Department of Health and Human Services from the Division of Economic Stability.
Second.
Any discussion? Councilor?
So 17A, this is the contract to increase outreach, to increase participation in the SNAP program. So when do we expect that this would actually be implemented so that the public will start receiving the outreach?
Implemented in terms of starting?
Yeah.
Good morning, Kara Heber, Director of Division of Economic Stability. Pretty much right away, we've already been really working with the food bank for several years now, actually. So a lot of this is activities that they're already building. So we expect to be implementing the additional activities pretty quickly and hopefully be able to see some results soon.
Are you going to be monitoring the results?
Oh, yes. We have incorporated into this contract several different reporting requirements, both quarterly and annually. The entire point of this contract is to increase utilization. So we're hoping to be able to see that, certainly within each quarter and then annually, and we'll continue to evaluate.
Okay. Glad to see that, because we really do not have adequate participation in 39 elimination in staff. Look forward to hearing the results.
Councilor Stevens.
Thank you for responding to my email. We are pushing and alerting active duty, National Guard, and reservists of their eligibility for this program, correct?
Yes, that's one of the groups that we want to be able to target, yes.
In addition to those that are listed. Thank you.
Yes.
Further discussion on either of these items? Okay, hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those items are approved. Could I have a motion to adopt agenda items 18 and 19 from the Department of Health and Human Services from New Hampshire Hospital?
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion for New Hampshire Hospital? Okay, hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? With that, items 18 and 19 are approved. Need 30 seconds. Sorry for that. Putting in my lunch order. Okay, moving on, I'll ask for motion to adopt agenda items 20 through 23 from the Department of Health and Human Services from Glen Telephone.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those items are approved. Can I get a motion to adopt agenda item 24 from the Department of Health and Human Services from the Division of Children, Youth, and Families?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? DCYF? Okay, hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 24 is approved. Could I get a motion to adopt agenda items 25 through 29 from the Department of Health and Human Services from the Division of Long-Term Support and Services, although please note that item 29 itself has been removed at the request of the department.
So moved.
Any discussion on this one? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those items are approved. And finally, from Health and Human Services, could I have a motion to adopt agenda items 30 through 33 from the Division of Public Health?
So moved.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, hearing no discussion on those items, please, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those items are approved. Now, we do have one tabled item for Health and Human Services. If you don't mind, Councilor Worthing, if you would.
Motion to remove item 14A from the table.
Thank you. We have a motion to remove item 14A. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. The item is removed. Could I get a motion to adopt agenda item 14A? Motion and a second. Any discussion on this, Councilor Warrington?
Yeah, so the concern that I've raised about this item is that in the scoring process that's currently being used by the department, and it goes apparently way beyond this item, that when you are looking at an item that is not just going to be awarded as a low-cost bid, but there will be other factors taken into consideration, that when you get to the cost section, there's actually no comparison of the cost between the various bidders. And the criteria that's being used to score costs doesn't really have a lot to do with the dollar amount that's bid. The result here is that you have two providers that are clearly very close in quality on the technical side. One of them did $150,000, the other one did $300,000, and they were both awarded the same number of points for cost. And so the higher cost project won. And this seems like a really not a good result for the taxpayers of New Hampshire when they can have a very good quality, high quality provider, basically equivalent quality provider, for half the cost. And so we've been having some discussions over the course of the week about looking at a change to that way that the department is evaluating costs so that the actual cost is taken into consideration. And I'm just wondering if you can comment any further on that.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Good morning, Robert Moore, Contracts Director. So as we discussed, Councilor Warrington, so cost is taken into account. This is a request for proposal. By definition, it's not a low-cost bid. Technical is scored first before cost. I'll just walk us through the process to kind of how we got to this outcome. Technical is scored first and always weighted more heavily because with an RFP, we're looking for the highest quality services. Once we score technical, and Integration Sciences did receive, it was close, but Integration Sciences did receive the highest technical score. We move on to cost. Reasonableness of cost is taken into account. That's one of the criteria. So you'll see that Keene State did receive the overall highest cost score. But there are several reasons why a vendor that proposes a lower cost may not receive a significantly higher cost score. When we actually go to look at this cost and weigh it against the other cost criteria, they may have, for example, I can't go into the particulars of these proposals, but just as some examples, they may propose a higher administrative rate. So more of the funding is being directed to overhead and not directly to the services. They may propose lower staffing costs, but the scoring team determines that staffing isn't sufficient, that allocation isn't sufficient to actually provide services. Or when they look at the budget narrative, they may determine there's not sufficient detail to actually understand how the costs are necessary or how they align with the services. So while this is an unusual outcome, it's not an impossible outcome, I think the scoring team did exactly what they were required to do, which is evaluate these proposals independently, objectively, and against their criteria.
I understand that, and thank you, and I appreciate it, and I think that they did as well. My concern is not to what this particular team did, but what your criteria is overall. So you are not, you said to me that you were going to go back to the Attorney General's office and talk about changing the criteria so that this won't be the outcome in the future, because this is really not an efficient use of taxpayer dollars.
Yeah, absolutely. We've heard the council feedback on that, so we will be happy to have that conversation with the Department of Justice, who we developed this cost criteria with. And it's never going to be just about the low cost, right? Again, RFP is not a low cost bid, but how can we take a look at that criteria to put more emphasis on the cost? And again, the vast majority of RFPs result in the lowest cost bidder being the selected vendor. It's just this was an unusual outcome because that technical piece was so close.
Yeah, and of course, I would never suggest that you would want to go with a lower quality bidder. I would think that you would establish some sort of minimal or a level of quality that you would require, and then with those contracts that meet that, you would go on to cost. But I would leave it up to you. But I think that really fundamentally, this is now discovered to me that this is how all of the contracts are being done at DHHS. This just makes no sense for the taxpayers.
Yeah, and if I could, I agree with you 120%. The thing that drives me crazy here is that you keep using the word cost. This is not an analysis of cost. You're analyzing value. Cost and value are two incredibly different things, right? What you're getting for the dollars putting in or the scope of services, that's very different from cost. That's related to how all the other commissioners, for the most part, all the other departments utilize cost. Cost is
take into account cost.
Cost is the dollar amount, right? As opposed, so if anything, maybe it's a verbiage change or whatever it is, but I think for me, I don't want to put words in your mouth, Council, it's just misleading, right? It's misleading that we're evaluating based on cost when you're really not.
Well, you should, but cost should factor
But cost should factor in. Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think we should actually look at cost as well, because it is a taxpayer. It doesn't necessarily have to go to lowest bidder. I get it, but grading on, relative. right? For the most part, DOT will grade their cost items based on who's cheaper and who's not, as opposed to value.
And one of the factors that in this case is taken into consideration, it's a percentage of the amount that they bid that goes to administrative costs. So the lowest bidder is actually punished because they may have the same exact dollar amount for administrative costs, but that's going to be 10% of the $300,000 contract, and it's going to be 20% of the $150,000. So they're actually punished that you're looking at administrative fees based on rate.
Because often administrative fees are more tied to fixed costs. There's just a certain amount of hours to manage the contract, so as a percentage, that doesn't make sense.
I'm just saying this process needs to be revisited.
With all due respect, I think it's important, we are held accountable to make sure that the services that we contract with have the right staffing, have the right deliverables, that the vendor can deliver that. So cost is important, but it's not the only factor, which is why we use such a process.
Yeah, we're not suggesting for a moment it would be the only factor.
No, but I don't want it to be that it's just the administrative cost that is the factor here. I'm hearing Robert say that the team looked at what the vendor was able to deliver. It matched the costs appropriately, more so than the second vendor.
I don't want to put too much emphasis on that. That was just one example. There's a multitude of reasons why this outcome is possible.
Again, I would hope that the department could go and revisit this because actual dollars should matter.
It will be revisited.
And they do, as well as the quality of the service.
Councilor Stevens.
Patrick, thank you so much for getting back to me. The purpose of this contract is to enhance services, reduce duplication, and identify potential programmatic funding and policy opportunities. And when we last met, I identified one potential conflict of interest. And when looking at their client list, it's now up to 6 between the Greater Monadnock Public Health Network, Lakes Region Mental Health Center, Mary Hitchcock, which we discussed the last time, Monadnock Family Services, Behavioral Health Association, Seacoast Mental Health Center. This is a sole proprietor. There's so many conflict of interest. How can they fulfill this contract?
So thank you, Councilor. I'm Patricia Fox. I'm the Director of the Division for Behavioral Health. If you look at what the scope of this service is, it does not pick out individual programs and say, hey, they should get more funding. It's not like that at all. It's looking at all of the plans that we have in place that have been built up, and it's looking, crosswalking those to determine what did we miss. Have we missed anything? You approved the item earlier for the Opioid Abatement Commission, all of those projects. We want to have something to which we can point to and say, here's where the funding needs to go. It's not to a particular provider in any part of the state. It's for a systems investment, and that's really the intention of this. So there, I think, as we had indicated to you, there is a conflict of interest policy within the contracting and when we put out the RFP. And so when they submitted the application, when any vendor submits an application, they have to identify any potential conflict of interest. And this particular vendor did not identify one, nor did we see one based on what the work is.
Well, I appreciate the need to be doing this, but how could you not say that there's a potential conflict of interest when they're representing 6 medical behavioral health care entities? I believe in the process, but I don't think this is a good fit.
So if I could ask you, where do you see that there could be a conflict with those, and how would that?
They represent 6 significant providers here in the state with decision-making. How do they remain impartial? I know it's not to reduce, but there's just an inherent conflict of interest. I don't know how you can say that.
Councilor Warren?
Yeah, just to follow up, if we were to reject this contract, we actually got advice from the Attorney General on this morning. If we were to reject this contract with a out-of-state sole proprietor, then your second bidder is, or the second highest scorer is the Behavioral Improvement Institute at Keene State, and that's for half the price. So if we were to reject this contract, it's my understanding that you can award that to the second highest scoring bidder. Do you want to confirm that, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, that is the case. Nothing that prevents that.
Thank you.
Further discussion on item 14A? Okay, all in favor of item 14A, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed?
No.
No.
And with that, the item does not pass. Okay, that concludes our...
Yes or no?
What's that?
Yes, of course, it's not heard.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah, I think we're all... So moving on to the items from DOT, could I have a motion to adopt agenda items 34 and 44A for the Department of Transportation? Any discussion? There's always something. Oh, Councilman Hornsby. Oh, okay. We'll start with Councilman Hornsby. I'm sorry.
Good morning, councils. For the record, Glenn Katz, Commissioner of DOT.
Hello, Commissioner. How are we doing up in line?
Good, yeah. Work started on the bridge and they've closed the crossing.
Okay, and now we're getting, as we did in Charlestown, we asked for regular updates so that people can be aware of how we're doing that.
Yes. Yep. It's on the monthly newsletter, as well as setting up a listserv. I know in advance of the closure, they also did some direct mailings to the rural delivery, particularly on the Thetford side. So.
My question is about item number 43. And this is when you are needing to contract these utilities to relocate utilities during a construction project. And I guess historically, you have done that without entering into these agreements without council approval. And it says in here, as part of this review, it was agreed by both the Department of Administrative Services and the Department of Transportation to request approval from the Governor and Council for continued use of entering into this type of agreement. And I just want to clarify that what you're asking for from us today is that you will be able to continue to enter into these agreements without prior approval from the council, and that you would give us notification after the fact. Is that what you're asking for?
That is essentially correct. The item, it's referenced in the first item. So the item 68 on June 30th, 2021, we account to the council that authority for the next biennium to enter into these force account agreements with the stipulation that we would annually give an update on their usage. So this is an informational item with a report on the usage. We will be seeking authority for the continued use of that, for the continued entering into these agreements. But this is an informational item just for the particular for the use from the past biennium, for the past fiscal year. Excuse me.
So when you say you will be seeking, you're going to come forward with
Yes.
this? Oh, okay.
Yes.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So that was partly my question too. So you're going to come forward with an item to make this permanent?
No. The process that we had worked out with DAS, a little bit of history, if it's all right, you know. We'd always had force account agreements for utility work within our contract. Force accounts are for utilities to move, whether they be municipal or utility lines, gas lines. If there's work that we require them to move as part of the project, we are forcing them to move. We typically pay them under the project, and those are called force accounts. There was an audit, and it was, I forget the exact date, but it was probably in 2000. I could look at the items, but it was sometime in the past. And as part of that audit, a review, it was looked at that these were technically contracts, and we should be getting Governor and Council authority to enter into those contracts. Working with DAS at the time, established this process, because we're working with these after trying to advertise the projects and working with municipalities on the relocation of their sewer or water lines and things like that, that we would establish this process where we would come biannually for the approval to enter into these sports accounts in advance for the next 2 years. So it wouldn't be permanent, with the stipulation that we would provide an annual report on their usage.
So the process is different than changing the MOP. And I'm curious why this process and not put this into the MOP, which has a lot of other items that you will come to the town. Why not put this in the MOP? That the council gets to review it every 2 years when we do the MOP.
I can answer that question. I don't have a good answer for it. Why it wouldn't be part of the MOP, other than nothing I can think of today. Because of the source of it, that it came as an audit finding, and it is governed by, I think, RSA. But you can bail me out.
But what this would essentially be is a waiver of very specific. So I think we would do a MOP amendment for something like this. I guess the downside is that if you started amending the MOP every time you wanted to just waive the MOP or something narrow, that would be more complicated. So that's my thought.
So it's an either or.
It worked. It is.
Okay.
And in fact, this is very specific, relative to the more general.
Further question on a different item?
Were there any other questions on this item? Okay, here, Council, why don't you go with...
So I think I understand what's going on. Item 44, the lease of equipment in the list that you gave us in 44, those aren't lease purchases, right? It's just we're leasing them for a amount of time?
Correct.
And what's the difference?
Generally generally short-term equipment rentals.
So some of them say per hour, and some of them just say invoice in the list. What's the difference per hour and it just says invoice?
If you don't mind, I'm going to ask Dave Rodriguez, former Director of Operations, one-time Director of Operations, Assistant Commissioner, to help me. He's dealt with those rental agreements for a long time in the process. Dave.
Good morning. For the record, my name is David Rodriguez, Assistant Commissioner for the Department of Transportation. When we do contract rental agreements, we do them to serve us most efficiently. So we rent equipment sometimes by the hour, sometimes by the day, sometimes by the week, and sometimes by the month. An invoice piece of equipment is typically rented by the month, so we get monthly invoices for that equipment and pay for it that way.
Okay. Thank you. Councilwoman, did you?
I just want to go to item 35. So this is for membership in WTS, which is an organization that's been around since, international organization, has been around since 1977, which will be our first year, and this is retroactive of the department's first year in participating in this. And the purpose of this organization is dedicated to shaping the future of transportation for the public good through the global advancement of women, and it gives women professionals leadership skills and opportunities for advancement in transportation to both diversify and expand opportunities for women in transportation, and will expand our workforce opportunities. I just want to thank you for participating in this organization.
Yeah, and this is somewhat different for us. This is kind of a corporate membership that we worked with, and actually I have to give credit to former Commissioner Sheehan, who worked with the group to start a New Hampshire chapter, as well as worked with the group to allow a kind of a corporate membership so that we can have up to 27 actually participation members from the department at a pretty low price. So. Where we're trying to get that support and involvement, both for the professional development as well as overall just kind of recruitment, morale building, and everything you mentioned. So I appreciate you mentioning it.
Councilor Stevens.
Thank you so much for speaking with me time and time again regarding Route 125. And I just want to confirm that the driver feedback, the dynamic messaging, and variable signage has been deployed since our most recent fatality last
It
week.
will be deployed this week. They were going to get out there early in the week with the storms and some of the things they've been dealing with. The maintenance supervisor who is dealing with this section has been out pumping water off of Route 202 and trying to get that taken care of, but I did talk to them this morning. They will be deployed by Friday.
And thank you, my offer still holds, and I will personally get a truck and get them and put them out.
All right.
So you know where to find me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you.
Further discussion on any of these items from DOT. Councilor Kenny.
Just another topic while I have you, Commissioner. I've got a couple of emails with regards to debris on our highways and what's going on and things like that. So I've seen a lot of garbage and models. What is the program on our state roads to clean that up?
The program is we try to get to it as we can. We still are struggling with vacancies, and typically mowing, trash removal tend to be the lower priority things in terms of rather than fixing guardrail and replacing pipes. But we try to get to it when we can, particularly the more visible areas. But I've seen it, and we've had some similar complaints as well. And our goal is to get to it essentially as we can.
So do we use state prisoners and county prisoners to help clean up the highways?
We do. I'll ask Dave to speak a little bit more to that program. We use them for loaders, we use them for trash pickup, but that comes. We need a supervisor with the prison crews. So we try to utilize them as we can, but they're not end all. I don't know, Dave, can you add any more context to that?
No, that's very, very good. We do have a crew that we pick up in a van every day here in Concord. We have a great relationship with the Department of Corrections. Those folks help primarily cut trees, fix drainage. They do help us fix guardrail, and they also pick trash too. There's also an item on today's agenda to accept trash bags from America the Beautiful, and that describes our sponsor a highway program. That's really how we like to get a lot of that done, where volunteer programs sign up and come to work with us. When they go out to pick, we provide vests and signs, and they remove quite a bit of trash for us, and that's the strategy we're trying to get up.
Yeah.
So as someone who lives on a state road, not far from Route 16, we're traveling towards and surge the past few years. I've noticed on highways that people are throwing a lot of debris on the state highways. So, our civic groups in our area will pick up and help out with the Lions Club and so forth, and over with trash pickup days and many civic groups will do that. And I don't know how you prevent that, Governor, it just happens, but maybe a PSA, our highways clean, you're in New Hampshire, don't dump a bottle or whatever, your trash on the side of the road.
Maybe we should run our PSAs in Rhode Island and Massachusetts, and New York. That would actually make the most sense.
We're proud of circumstances, right? Ask them to come here. Maybe we can put in the traveling tours of PSA market.
Well, one thing I will say, I mean, it is extremely noticeable once snowbank, especially now that snowbanks have melted and stuff. I do think hopefully in a few weeks after winter's gone, we'll see some improvements.
I hope, Commissioner, you're not saying let the trash go, so that we know what notice
But it tends to be, I've noticed around my house and my yard, it's very, very visible until we get out.
And you have to let it dry too a little bit, because I just know the swales get filled with water, right? So you got to let it
So we
dry.
have a DOT public information officer, right?
Yes.
Okay. That might be a good little project for him to work with some other state agencies to just...
That's what PSA is up.
If you send that person's contact information to Joe Ken, so they can work with it, that'd be great. And if they're looking for a location, Councilor Kenny, I'm sure we'll have a couple locations if they're looking for...
I jog 3 miles down the road, that's some trash every Friday.
Yeah.
Especially this spring.
I'm going to probably stop this weekend and come back with trash and stuff. They got trash tomorrow.
Yeah. The PSA, I can think of some that I have seen on my drive to work and stuff. some of that up.
So can I tell you a funny story? Because I'll get them anyway. So my son's school does something with trash pickup. The number, and we're out there, this was like 2 years ago. This is, I guess, right during COVID. The number of keys, car keys, that were picked up on the side of the road was astounding. I couldn't, they're mostly because they don't go in the ignition anymore.
Yeah.
And I don't know how they, I couldn't believe it. I had like 4 sets of car keys on the side of the road. I don't know how that happened. But anyway, I was pretty shocked. So you never know what you're going to get up there. Yeah.
Well, someone who spends some time picking up trash, masks are now a big part of
Oh,
it.
yeah.
I know they are.
And political signs, just saying. Blow around. Go pick them up. Yes, Councilor Stevens.
We just use your signs down in Northampton. Joke cut.
Those are loyal fans. Okay, great. All right. So seeing no further discussion, all in favor of items 34 through 44? I think it's funny that we're going to 44A. From the Department of Transportation, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, those items are approved. Great, thank you guys. I'll now ask for motion to adopt agenda item 45 from New Hampshire Governor's Commission on Disability. Any questions on this item for Director Sayah? Is that? Yeah, sure. Council Stevens has a question. I should go to Director Sayah.
Good morning,
Hello, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Executive Council. This is Chuck Sayah, Executive Director of the Commission on Disability.
Good morning, Mr. Shea. Thank you so much for responding and providing a breakdown in greater detail on how that 180,000 is going to be broken down over the next few years. And I think it's important that everyone's
Well, by all means, I can forward that to this meeting.
Great.
Yes.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Thank you, God.
Any other questions? Okay, no. All in favor of item 45, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 45 is now approved. Could I get a motion to adopt agenda item 46 from the Judicial Council?
Second.
Any discussion?
Since Roger left, I see you still have acting executive director. Is there a plan in place for
I think they're soliciting applications, right? It's publicly noticed publicly and kind of soliciting. I don't know, we can find out what their timeline is. Yep, we can definitely find out. Any other questions on 46? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 46 is approved. Could I get a motion to adopt agenda item 47 from the Department of Information Technology?
Second.
Any discussion on item 47? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 47 is approved. Could I get a motion to adopt agenda items 48 through 65A from the Department of Agriculture, Markets, and Food? Motion and second. Any discussion for the Commission? Oh, Councilor Wheeler. I think Commissioner Jasper here? Oh, there he is. He's here somewhere. Morning, Commissioner.
Good
How are
morning.
you? It's springtime. Everything growing?
Everything is growing underwater.
Thank you, Governor, Commissioner. Item 48 is sole source for this person, and I'm wondering, how many years it's been sole source? The item said of years, it didn't say how many years.
So that would be I'm sorry, I don't have that right in front of me. Contract.
LLC.
Yes, that's been since 2009.
So are we ever going to put this out to bid again?
Well, this is somebody who the contracted over to the State Conservation Commission. She is intimately knowledgeable about this program. There are a lot of people that administer this, and I personally think that because of her knowledge of the program and how this is done, it doesn't make a lot of sense to go on and on for somebody else because of the retraining.
So the job as hers as long as she wants it? Is that what you-
Well, you know, as long as the price stays right, and the State Conservation Commission, of course, which I'm a voting member of, feels that it's a job well done, I think so. I mean, largely, we're a volunteer organization. Hopefully, after this year, there will be a full-time executive director, and perhaps that is something with some more staff to look at that. That would be a possibility, but right now, limitation on manpower and having somebody that we're good with, has been working on, I believe, with the state and the program.
So, and following, is this like the only thing she does for $88,000?
She's here. I hate to bring her up, but I'm not familiar. I know what her monthly billing is. I don't want to bring her up. Okay. Then
That's the contract.
No, I understand. I know that generally it's $3,000 a month is the contract, the $88,000. You want me to consult?
It's $44,000 per year for 2 years. That's
No,
correct.
yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Further discussion on this, or items, Councilor Wallington, did you have a question?
Yeah, first of all, Commissioner, I just want to thank you for taking me on the farm tour. Last week, we got to see a Christmas tree farm, a vegetable farm, a dairy farm, a ranch. And I get to eat some ice cream at Patchland and also to a sawmill. So thank you for that. But part of that day, I heard quite a bit about the lack of meat processing. And so on item 65A, how do you feel like is this going to alleviate the issues regarding to...
It will be a big help. It is about half of what we had requested, or about half of the requests we had. So while it will be a big help, we were looking for more. We've been in touch with the gopher about that and said, you know, we'd like to get on the list if there's more, because we can do more. The other part of this is the program for teaching. The cooperative extension is working to stand up. That is coming along very well. The mobile classroom, again, we were a little short on doing what we would fully like to do, but there's enough to do a good job with that, and we'll be working more with stores where they're doing some of their own meat cutting, some of these processing, get the hands-on experience. So between the two, it's going to alleviate quite a bit, and the new slaughterhouse that used to be North Country Road, which is coming back online as Granite State, in Claremont will be a big help. And then with the PT's farms having been sold, and those owners participating in this, and looking to triple the capacity over the next 5 years, I think we'll be in much better shape. But it's a good start.
So I've been following this for day one, this particular contract, and you know that, Commissioner.
Yes, I do.
You've heard from me many times on
I
this
have.
contract, and we're 2 months behind. Do these folks, recipients, know that and have
So-
been reached out to?
They're actually, it's not 2 months behind.
Well, you gave up the news on February 27th.
Yes, but with the letter that they got, because we knew we had to go through the contract process, our target deadline was to be April 12th, was to be before you. Unfortunately, we were given bad advice through Guidehouse, which is a state contractor. They had us go through training and do all the contract based on one set of criteria. When I got to Gopher, and it was through the AG, it was through everybody, Gopher said, this is the wrong set of criteria. That's why we missed the April 12th deadline. So we're back here 3 weeks later than we intended to be. But in the letters, right from the get-go, we said we hope to be before you on the 12th of April, which was only 52 days after the grants closing out. I think we were very aggressive with this program. We have a staff of 1.5 and total managing $4.5 million worth of grants all at the same time. So I'm very proud of my staff. I'm very pleased with that. If we hadn't got that advice, we would have been here at your last meeting.
So just to follow up, in my mind, it's 2 months behind. How would you like to take that? However, you've reached out to recipients, they know the money's on the way, which is here today. In your language, it said that, the capital
capital improvements should be done within the year, okay? Because I think, farmers have different schedules, as you know, than the regular citizens. They've already planned out their year, probably a month or two ago. So the question is, we're only giving them a year window of opportunity to execute this grant. Why not give them 2 years?
Well, we don't believe that there's any problem there because most of them have already got the order. This is really all equipment, and so they have the orders in place, ready to go. So we expect the invoices to be rolling in immediately, and that these slaughterhouses want that equipment and want to get it installed as quickly as they can. If you've noticed, some of them were even more aggressive than they should have been because they talked about ordering dates in April, and we told them right up front, nothing could be paid for. But on the other hand, we did say you should probably be ordering early. We believed, and you could prove me wrong, that you were going to approve these grants so that there wasn't any danger to them. But again, if there were, orders would be canceled. But because of the lead time, I think much of the equipment that's in here has already been ordered by these people and are scheduled as soon as the funds are available.
So just to point out that East Conway Slaughterhouse is under reconstruction because they had a fire there. So there's probably going to be a little bit slower to implement than maybe a PT farm or other slaughterhouses that are already up and running. So I just want to point that out. I just think consider that fact that, give them, whether it's 18 months or 24 months, just give them that consideration so that they don't, they're under a lot of stress as it is. So I just don't want them to get more stress just because they're trying to get it in before fall or something.
Certainly, if there are issues, we'll be back for an extension on any of those. I honestly believe if you look at Conway, they're already in that ordering process as well, and they're looking to be back up and running before the end of the year. So I have very little doubt that all of these grants will be closed out by the fall.
So hopefully, in maybe a year from now, we'll have a picture of all the capital items and equipment that were ordered and implemented, and you have all those 8 orders, and you can show us a picture of all of them.
I'd love to take you on a tour. We can try that.
You know, my schedule is always open to visit my farmers.
So we'll certainly be following up with those and giving them where we can. I think that it's very important to see how these programs are implemented. Just on paper.
And speaking of which, my last question was, in the budget, you were attempting to get a deputy commissioner position. Did that go through?
So far, that has gone through in the House budget. Of course, it was in the governor's budget. The House approved it. I had no questions on that when I had my Senate hearing a couple of weeks ago. So I do believe that is not going to be one of the things that will be left out.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Further questions on this or any other items for the commission? Okay. All in favor of items 48 through 65A, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? With that, the items are approved.
Thank you very much.
I'm now going to ask for a motion to adopt agenda item 66, New Hampshire Employment Security. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item 66 is approved. I'll ask for a motion to adopt agenda item 67 from the New Hampshire Liquor Commission.
Second.
Any discussion on item 67? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item 67 is approved. Could I get a motion to adopt agenda item 68 from the Governor's Office for Emergency Relief and Recovery?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion on item 68? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item 68 is approved. Could I get a motion to adopt agenda item 69 from the Department of Business and Economic Affairs?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 69 is approved. Could Can I get a motion to adopt agenda items 70 through 74 for the New Hampshire Fish and Game Department? Do you have a motion and a second? Any discussion? Councilor Wheeler, I think the director's here.
Morning. Director Scott Mason, Executive Director of Hampshire Fish and Game.
Thank you, Director. I have just a general question that I've asked at this table before and for the last 2 years.
Yes.
What's it going to take to get the town of Milford to be allowed to take the gravel out of their own land that they own? The hope that we seem to have approvals from environmental services, the fishing game seems to be the holdup. The town of Milford is losing over $1 million in revenue because we can't get the gravel out because you won't give us the permit.
Well, we don't issue a permit, so...
Approved.
Right. We issue recommendations to DES. It's the DES permit that has been issued. I believe our staff is working with the town on that.
It's not exactly the way my town characterizes it.
Is there a timeline here?
There's not. This is one of the old...
Well, let's give ourselves a timeline about that. I mean, that way there's some certainty, right? Like, I mean, I'm not saying you have to give me a timeline here, but let's do this. Because again, I've been here about this forever. I mean, I thought this was taken care of a long time ago. So if you can engage with the departments, come back with a reasonable timeline. By reasonable, I mean aggressive. To finally put the issue to rest, just because it's been going on for so long, so it can get back to DES so they can hopefully issue the permit, right? I mean, that way I just think there'll be some certainty with the town, because it just seems to be dragging on and on.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be helpful. That would be great. Thank you. Great.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, you bet. All right, what else we got for fishing game? Are people fishing? Are they gaming?
Yes.
Yes? Are licenses, people buying the licenses?
Water, buying a trolling.
Yeah. They're fishing at the highway then? Councilor Kenny?
Okay. So, Director, we talked about that property down here, England.
Yes.
Yeah, where I believe it's the Emery State that funded the code. So, we're asking for, I think here, $1.5 million to accept funds from the National Ocean, whatever, Atmospheric Administration, MOAA. So we're going into the fund, and so we're asking to accept that. So what exactly are we going to do with that money at that site? I know we visited the site a few months ago, but what specifically are we going to do with that money?
The old farmhouse is going to be restored for, we have grad students and whatnot that participate in some of our research. So it'll be housing for researchers that will be traveling through and staying with us for a short period, or a relatively short period of time. There's another house there that we're going to move, that we currently have a young woman living there. The little chicken coops will be torn down. There's going to be a pavilion built for events. The concept that we'll be doing there is both the wildlife management area and also education, trying to teach citizens about the Great Bay resources. Beautiful piece of property. This is just for the construction, not the purchase of the property. The property was purchased with a entitlement from Senator Craig, so back in the 90s.
Great piece of property.
Other questions? Okay, hearing none, all in favor of 7374, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Those items are approved. I'm going to ask for a motion now to adopt agenda items 75 through 89 from the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources. Your second? Second. Thank you. Good morning, Commissioner. Any questions? Councilor Wheeler?
Good afternoon. I have questions on a couple of items here. First off, on item 78, is a sole source contract to rent equipment to, I assume, clean up trails and stuff. And again, like we talked previously, to come back with one bid, something like renting the excavator to clean trails. And I don't understand why this is happening. There's got to be something wrong in the process to be only coming back with one bid. And the same is the case on item 8. But, you know, what can we do in this bid process to make sure we get more than one bid? I mean, there's many rental companies that could rent a piece of equipment like that, and we're coming back with one bid. I can't believe there's only one company that wants to rent a little excavator or whatever piece of equipment you're using to clean trails.
Thank you. It's very frustrating. I'm going to call Brian Wilson up to join me. He's our Director of Parks and Recreation. And this is a challenge that we're facing not only in this division but also in Forest and Lands, because they also need to make sure their roads and access points are safe for travel. And in this situation, we have to make sure that the trails are safe for our upcoming business season. There was a program in place for decades that provided for rental agreements that was different than a contracting agreement. That has changed, which has created a longer time frame for approval processes. We're working with our representatives at DOJ and some elected officials to try to navigate this so we're not put in this position again. We hate bringing retroactive sole sources to this body. But in order to get up and running for this season, there are a couple of instances that we felt we couldn't wait for the 6 to 8 week period to get our trails ready.
But that explains maybe the retroactive portion, but it doesn't explain the one bid portion. I mean, there are dozens of rental companies in the state. It just something doesn't seem right about this, so I think that gets fixed.
I would just say one of the things I encounter a lot when I ask this question is that to do business with the state, that for a very small company, a very small business owner, there's a lot of bureaucracy for them, and it makes it harder for us to get really competitive bids when you've got people that just aren't interested in going through that
And
whole
fix the process and make it easier. I've done state work. I don't do state work while I'm elected, but I've done state bids when I haven't been elected. I know the process. It's cumbersome, but it's not that difficult. For small flooring jobs and stuff, I've done it.
We're in the process of rectifying this so that we don't have to get stuck and make it more streamlined for our vendors. And like I said, there was a scenario in the past where rental agreements were much simpler, and that's not the case right now. We're not allowed to do it that way anymore. So we're working. We've actually talked with DOT, and they have similar waivers. I don't know if that's the correct word, where they're allowed to respond quicker to incidents to maintain the safety of their roads. And for a lot of our roads and access points, it is a safety issue. So paralleling some of the processes that DOT has used successfully is a path that we're.
Is this something sounds like this is something you do annually?
Yep.
Okay. So that
We
doesn't
talked to
explain how we
DAS.
got one bid, but
We have some solutions in
okay,
place.
that's great. Further questions, Doug? Please. New item. On item 80, $213,000 for metal roofing. That's like $22 a square foot for all the work on that roof. That's outrageous. And I'm very curious to know why you spec an MBCI metal roof, which is something that comes out of New York, when there's other local metal roofs that are much cheaper than this metal roof. And again, we come back with only one bid. 2 people show up and we get one bid. That's just got to change.
You know why?
I'm looking at Patrick Ackley, who may have more information about the Forest and Lands project.
You don't want me to shout across the room? Oh, okay. So, Council, we understand your concern. It's our concern as well, because we want to spend the taxpayers' money as efficiently and economically as possible. We only got one bid on this project. We've been trying to get this roof repaired since I arrived in 2020. So we house our equipment there, our firefighting equipment, ATVs, snowmobiles, fire engines, et cetera, in the North Country. So we put this out to bid. We did get a contract to do it. He backed out of the deal. So we had to roll it back out again. And the cost of materials, as you know, since you're in the business, have gone through the roof. They're 30% more than they used to be. So we're kind of at the mercy of the supply chain issues and the cost of materials. And as Commissioner Stewart just mentioned, we have a cumbersome state process, contracting process. And you have to post a bond, you have to have a performance bond, and some of these outfits don't want to do that. I know you've been on state jobs, so you understand. So we're at the mercy of the cost of materials and the desire of independent contractors to work for state jobs when there's plenty of work out in the private sector for them to pursue. So that's why we've got a high number and one contractor on this. But we've got to get it done. It's overdue.
So we've been here before with roofs and stuff. What dollar amount do you start to require a performance bond?
I don't have a threshold. I don't know. I can find out. But I think we have it as a matter of course on most of our work.
And the other part of my original question was, why did you spec MBIC brand name metal roofing? There's Fabrel, there's ABC, that are all available very locally, and this one's out of New York. So why did you spec that roof? It's very expensive material. If you give you some history, we rebid the state nursery metal roof from standing seam to exposed fastener and saved 50%.
Yeah.
This bid is way too high. I don't know what we're doing wrong with the bidding process, but we got to reach out to more contractors. We need to be more flexible with the spec and figure out how to be more flexible with the process.
Well, let me
not against doing the roof at all.
Sure.
But I also noticed in this contract, the old roof is aluminum roofing, 10,000 square feet of aluminum roofing, and he has an item in there, dollar item to dispose of it. He's going to sell that aluminum. Probably get 35, 40 cents a pound for it. Shouldn't have an item in there at all to dispose of it in this bid.
Well, I can bring your questions back to our development and design development department and find out and relay them to you directly, because there may be valid reasons for why we're looking at that material specifically and what was available to the contractor, and that's why they went that route. But I realize it was spec'd out for a high-end, but it's the North Country, it's an important building. I'll find out more about that. I can relay it to you.
So maybe we can table this item and get some more information.
Sure. Well, that's a motion to table. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor of tabling item 80, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Then maybe it's tabled. 80. Further discussion on any of these items? Councilor Kenny.
Just on another item here, I want to give that to you, Commissioner here. The councils, it was just something that a few years ago, we had a government council meeting up at East State Park, and very nice park, and I think it's probably underutilized. And I think in 2018, we had some conceptual designs. They were going to do the stucco side, I think you only did one side. And a handicap accessibility in the back and the porch area. And so they've got a meeting coming up with the Reed State Park Association. And I'm looking at these timelines. Technically, this project was completed in October in 2022. But obviously, it didn't happen. So where are we with this particular project? Because, obviously, we don't have the disabled community can't access this facility.
Correct, and it's wonderful, and it's used daily. by the public, and we have a ton of programming there. So we do have the designs for the elevator to go up the back of the building, and we have an allocation of ARPA funds that we can now align with that project. So we are moving forward.
So your original timeline, had out the bid March of 2022, construction would be approved by Governor's House in June 2022, and so on and so forth. Did we have the funding back then, or we did not have the funding? I'm a little bit confused because we had an architect, a volunteer architect, who laid out all the plans and kind of the project that we were going to move forward with. So, but I understand there's another architect involved from the state. And so what are we doing, and what is our timeline on this now?
I don't have the timeline with me, so I didn't expect this question at this meeting. I can get it for you.
I didn't expect these questions either. This was, something.
No, that's
because the
fantastic.
meeting's coming up.
We have a bi-weekly meeting about all the projects that are in the queue and their timeline, and I can pull up where the week's project is currently.
So you would say it's going to be 2 years behind? This schedule that was given to us,
Yes.
it's going to be 2 years
Yes.
behind?
Without looking at the spreadsheet that I'm referring to in my mind, that yes, it is late.
So it's going to be 2
That's
years behind?
determined.
Okay. And the costs have gone up arguably the last 2 years, quite substantially, right? Okay. All right. I just, obviously, one of the reasons why I brought the Governor Council up there on the roadshow was really showcase that facility, that large, the history, everything that goes with it, and the need to have disability access to that facility. That's why we went up there. That was 4 or 5 years ago, I guess now. So it's a passion of mine now. Now that I've gotten back on the council, I would like to see it done.
It is happening. I will get the timeline.
Yeah, we're locked in with the ARPA process, the allocation for the Bureau of Historic Sites. This is one of the key projects that they're actively working on now. With all of the efforts through the ARPA program, we've had to kind of put a lot of other projects aside and kind of try to triage some through capital and kind of reconcile with what the plan was for ARPA. I don't know what timeline you're referring to there, but we do have hard deadlines with this under the ARPA program. It's got to be fully funded and completed by December of 2026.
That's the worst thing you can possibly say. That's too late. That's no good. Who cares about December 26th? 24. I think the point is, I was there 5 years ago, whatever it was. We don't want to hear 26, we barely want to hear 25.
So I know the team is actively working on it. So I'm actually going to Weeks tomorrow with the Historic Sites Bureau chief. So I will get our timeline, and we'll share that with you. I know they're actively working on this project. So
Well, you see where I'm going to the governor's agreeing. I give you 2 years of COVID, okay? All right, I give you that. But I was under the impression that had funding lined up with that whole program and scheduling to do that project. And so apparently we didn't. We're now going to ARPA fund because of the increased costs of the project.
I'll verify the amount that was allocated originally to that to make sure that you can see the accounting that went out there.
Okay.
Yes.
Governor, on a related department item, we got a happy notice in the mail that a historic marker for communists was placed in the city of Concord with the blessing of this department. And I'm just totally offended by that. I think it's a slap in the face to the veteran who did our pledge of allegiance this morning. A known Soviet person, and we authorized this historic marker in Concord. And I don't think that's something at all the state of New Hampshire should be proud about. I wish there was a way to undo it. But I would ask, Governor, on this subject, if you would direct the Office of Administrative Services to create a mock item that all these markers would for a while come through the Executive Council. It's obvious that they need much more oversight than they're getting. And so I'd like to see a MOP item come forward at the next meeting and give council oversight of this process.
May I speak to the program? Thank you. The Historic Highway Marker Program is one of our most popular programs in the Division of Historical Resources. And it's so popular because, I believe, because it's initiated at the local level. There is no state top-down effort to populate the state with historical highway markers. They're generated through sponsorships from municipalities, individuals, and local constituents who put together a plan, and then they are tasked with achieving a petition signed by people in their community. It is then their responsibility, the sponsors of a proposed highway marker, it's their responsibility to achieve local approval. And this specific highway marker was brought forth to the Concord Heritage Commission where it received approval, and I have the notes from that. And then it was put on the agenda at a city council meeting where it again was approved. Our agency is not in the business of approving or denying the markers. We check for factual accuracy, and we help make sure that the text fits on the space allocated on the marker. And we work with DOT to approve the safety of the positioning of the highway marker.
Who owns the marker?
It's normally on a state highway right-of-way. I have the process all laid out for the public to understand their responsibility in developing these highway markers. There are almost 300 now in the state of New Hampshire. Michael Bruno is a fanatic. He wrote a book about them, and I'm sure flipping through this, your nose will crinkle at several of the highway markers that are throughout the state. The purpose of them is not to commemorate heroes. The purpose is to provide a snapshot that the local community feels is of historic value.
Well, I'm going to say that this particular person has no historic value here in Concord, okay? And this person, Elizabeth Gurley Flynn, was a profound communist, okay, who died a Soviet, who was anti-American, okay? So every man and woman who served in uniform, okay, she was fighting against when she was living in the Soviet Union. As a Cold War warrior amongst my brethren, sisters, and brothers, okay, we do not support this at all. That this particular person who gets an historic marker, this isn't John Wentworth, you know, this isn't the first female state senator from Bristol. This is a devout communist. We have a live free or die state. How can we possibly promote her propaganda, which still exists now through this sign in downtown Concord? There was an article in the Concord Monitor last year that said, no one has claimed this person. You know why they didn't claim this person? Because she was anti-American, okay? And it took something like an act of Congress to get her remains to be buried somewhere around Chicago back into the state. So this is a slap in the face in the state of New Hampshire and the city of Concord because they haven't done their research. And that author of that article last year said no one wanted to claim this individual because she was anti-American and communist. And my father who fought in World War II, and I was a Cold War warrior in the 1980s, we fought against the Soviet Union. We fought against people like her. She has no business being recognized and of any value on a historical marker in this state. I just want that out there. I am dead set against this, and I think it's an embarrassment that we have a program that allows us to put communists on historical markers and then say, oh, that's part of our history. It's not part of my history.
Okay, so you guys do not, are you saying you don't approve of this? Like you don't, you don't have approval or disapproval authority on
There are
this marker?
RFAs and guidelines.
Who does?
I believe originally it was assigned to DOT to manage this program, and then I believe maybe in the 80s it was turned over to the Division of Historical Resources to facilitate the program. It's replicated
But we
in
do
other
have,
countries. It's standard.
So within there, I haven't read this lately. Maybe you've never listened to it. Who at the state level says yes or no? regardless of what a town wants,
Right.
who at the state level says, we're going to do that or we're not going to do that?
So there is criteria that is evaluated by the Division of Historical Resources staff and the State Historical Resources Council.
I tell you what, we're going to review the whole process. I completely agree with everything that's just said in here. The state obviously has authority here and responsibility. I mean, it's the state marker. You can't say we don't have any responsibility in terms of what it says and where it goes and whether it should be placed.
There's a full process that can be reviewed.
Okay. Can we review? We'll look into that, to be honest. Yeah, we'll find let me dig in a little bit with all the different groups, everyone from DOT, you guys, the council itself. We'll dig in.
Thank you, Governor.
Yeah.
Thank you, Governor.
Where is it? No, I know. I can't tell if you're being serious or you're just being funny about it. Either way, it's good. Do you know where? Does anyone know where this is? I don't know. All right, that's all right. Well, let me know. Let me dig in.
It could be a birthplace or something.
There are many potentially controversial highway markers, many.
Okay, well, we can go through.
Well, the UFO one, okay, I'm going to live with it. That's another story.
There's a German prisoner of war camp.
Absolutely.
Right, I know. So these are just...
They were fighting to become Americans, as far as I'm concerned. They were under Hitler because they were ordered to be under Hitler.
Okay, we will take a look. Further questions? Department of Natural and Cultural Resources. Okay. All in favor of item 75, 289, please signify by saying aye.
Go to the table.
Oh, yes, noting item 79 has been tabled. Nope. Okay. Is it 79? You guys say 79 and you
When
guys
you were
say 80.
talking about 79, you talked about tabling 80, but you're about the roofs of 79.
The roof is 79.
That's what we see in the
Yeah, roof is 79. And that's what we did. Table is 79.
Thanks.
You bet. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, those items are approved. I'll now ask for a motion to adopt agenda items 90 through 121 from the Department of Environmental Services.
Second.
Any discussion? Councilor Stevens.
Good afternoon, Governor, Councilors. For the record, Bob Scott, Department of Environmental Services.
Good afternoon, Commissioner. My question pertains to agenda item 90, and I realize that this is a change in completion date, but I still have concerns that I need to voice regarding the process. This is part of the Diesel Emissions Reduction Act, and we had $500,000, and 77% of those funds went to a for-profit entity, which had a 22 profit of $1.4 billion. And we did not award to 3 municipalities. So I would have hoped that they could have covered these costs. And I know that they are, this is to be protective of a lot of underserved minority communities, and air emissions control is very important. But again, if they're profiting at $1.4 billion annually, I would hope in the future we do consideration to municipalities, and if it's based on emissions that they are generating, all the more reason for them to take ownership and not receive government funding.
Yeah, point taken. Again, we can relook and we certainly will do that, but again, the Diesel Emission Reduction Act is something that Congress has passed, and there's criteria that we're following from Congress, but we can also look again to make sure we're meeting the certain corrections, if you will.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Councilor Katsas.
Thank you, Governor. The Hadley Bridge in Goffstown.
Yes.
I'm sure you've had a lot of phone calls.
Well, we are working, trying to work through that with all the entities. Effectively, it's a dam.
A dam, yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't know the question.
So the question is, are you going to get it resolved?
We're working on it. So one of the many issues associated with that is for a license for a hydroelectric use of that dam, and that's been, I think, over 20 years. We've had the license, but it's never actually had that on that. We do risk, at this point, if we don't surrender the license, we risk penalties, fines from the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. So we're working on that. I hope you're aware, Assistant Commissioner Sam Warren's been working personally with the town and other parties on that.
Well, the town called me because they weren't getting any sort of communications from anybody.
We did have a meeting with the town. The fact
It
that
was just a flat no.
we were trying to express what we can and can't do as far as that FERC license. So I won't guarantee it's a, we are communicating, I won't guarantee it's what they want to hear, but it's good.
Real quick, Governor, I'd just like to bring this up, that I'm getting complaints both from developers and engineers that they're having trouble getting permits through the wetlands of Europe. Things seem to be dragging, and in their words, they're saying, we answer these questions, and they come back with another round and another round, and projects are sitting for 2 years or more. And they are saying that the bottleneck is in the wetlands bureau. So we'd like to just give you these comments from this unnamed engineer here.
It would be very helpful if they have specifics, because we track, and we have a statutory timeline for all this, so this is a little bit of a mystery to me, but we'll absolutely look into it. This is not a fresh issue, if you will. I came into this issue, and I'm a little bit distressed to hear it's still going on.
So if you could just get back to me on that would be appreciated.
Sure.
Thank you. Further discussion for DES? Okay, hearing no further questions, all in favor of items 90 through 121, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Those items are approved. Could I get a motion to adopt agenda items 122 and 123 from New Hampshire Veterans Home?
So moved.
Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Those items are approved. Could I have a motion to adopt agenda items 124 through 130 from the Department of Education?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those items are approved. Could I have a motion to adopt agenda item 131 from New Hampshire Police Standards and Training Council?
Second.
Any discussion on item 131? Afternoon, Skip. How we doing?
Doing well.
Good. No questions? Okay, all in favor of item 131, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It is approved. Thanks. I'll now ask for motion to adopt agenda items 132 through 142 from the Department of Safety.
So moved.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those items are approved. Could I get a motion to adopt agenda item 143 from the Department of Justice?
So moved.
Any discussion on item 143? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 143 is approved. Could I now have a motion to adopt agenda items 144 to 161 from the Department of Administrative Services?
Second.
Any discussion? Yep, Councilor Cash.
Thank you. I've spoken to you at the breakfast meeting this morning in regards to a new program that's out there that is close to Compass, but not exactly. I think it's a better program. Back when I was here in Manchester, we had instituted Compass as being the first entity in the state that did it. And I would hope that the state of New Hampshire would bring forward this program because I think it could save us an awful lot of money and save employees. And there's nothing better in these times than trying to save money.
So I agree, 100%. To bring everybody in the loop on what we're talking about, it's essentially one of the shopper programs for healthcare services. The state, City of Manchester, under then Mayor Gatsis's leadership, adopted Compass, which was Nick Bayless's product at the time. And the state followed suit. Anthem, I think, then bought it. I don't know if Anthem bought it, somebody else bought it. Anyway, it's not Nick's anymore. The state has had that program, which is, for state employees will know it as Smart Shopper or Vital Smart Shopper, which basically steers you to a low-cost provider and you get a reward for it. And so, for example, when I had a colonoscopy, I'm not nearly too good. In fact, I was late. I went to the low-cost provider, cost high-quality provider. And so we do that. We are continuing to do that. We have met Mr. Bayless and another Mr. Bayless and a third person who played football with one of the others came in and met with us. And I met with Joyce Pittman, who runs our healthcare plan, Kathy Keene, the deputy commissioner, who used to run the healthcare plan, and I, who didn't ever run the healthcare plan, met with them. So we're going to look into what to do. It's part of the contract, and when the contract is up.
That's a year and a half away.
It is a year and a half away, but
$1 million.
no, so the thing is, can we run, the question we're going to go back and look at after talking to you is, can we run two shopper programs simultaneously? And I don't...
Why can't you?
I need to look at the contract and anything else, right? Because that's based on our business. So, but yes, we, big fan like the program, we're going to try to do it.
Further discussion on DAS items? Councilor Wheeler.
Yeah, on that at 156, personal use of state vehicles. This is something that we talked about the last time it was time to reauthorize this. And we talked specifically about the vehicle for Granite Mountain, whose 50% of that use is personal use of that vehicle. And it's something that I do not support, and I don't think we should support. I understand, and we were told at the time that would be addressed, and now the commissioner has changed her mind and thinks that we should do this. So I'm a little disturbed that we find out only when the item shows up here that it's no longer getting addressed. And I don't see any reason why the Cannon Mountain person can't drive his personal vehicle from Maine to Cannon Mountain Base, pick up a state vehicle there, and use it. I mean, even the Commissioner of State Police is on the list for, one of these vehicles, and other very important people are not at 50% usage. This is a ski area, and he does do a lot, and he does a good job at what he does. But I don't think that this bodes well for other state commissioners and employees to see someone else getting a vehicle that they use 50% for personal use. So I'm going to be voting against item 156.
Okay. Further discussion? Okay. Oh, yeah, on any item, sorry, Councilwoman.
Item number 157, this is the sole source contract for $31 million for Infor that we talked about at the breakfast meeting this morning. I don't want to cut off the conversation about this, but given the information that you provided this morning, the fact that we are seeing this for the first time last Friday and until today, given that there are a number of interested parties that I'd like to hear from to discuss the information that you provided this morning, I am going to move to table, but I would like to, if there's others that want to ask questions first,
sure.
I will defer.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions specific to item 157? Given that, if you don't mind, I'm going to accept your motion to table. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor of tabling item 157, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item is tabled. Thank you very much. Other items on the agenda, the DAS, and we'll get to the table items in a moment. Okay, all in favor of items 144 through 161, noting that item 157 has been tabled, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those items are approved. I'm going to ask, is there anyone with any interest in removing item 143 from the table?
I think now that we've tabled this
Right.
item, that this is ancillary to that.
Yep.
I would suggest that we put it on the table.
Okay. Any interest in removing item 152 from the table?
So moved.
Motion and a second. All in favor of removing item 152 from the table, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Noting that the item is removed from the table, and could I get a motion to adopt agenda item 152?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on only table item 152? Okay, Councilor Whittle?
Hey, Governor, I really don't support how this whole contract went down here. And in a general sense, to put this out as like a commodity item, where someone's getting several $100,000 of work on jobs we don't even know what they are yet. It's my understanding that since the last council meeting, that 3 of these asbestos removal jobs have come up and were bid successfully in a very short amount of time. And I think it's much better that if we change the process here and do not accept this item and bid those asbestos removal jobs job by job. We could get a much better price and have jobs that are smaller and more vendors can compete for that dollar.
Okay. Further discussion?
I wonder if the commissioner could comment on
Oh,
that.
yeah.
On a number of service contract items, things like carpentry and related items, we do statewide contracts that people use for multiple purposes. And they tend to be in areas like this, not just construction, but in facility maintenance, there are a lot of areas. And I would be remiss if I didn't express on behalf of my staff their dismay at having to bid everything constantly, individually. And part of that is because there's a lot of work to be done and a lot of time. And typically, when you are doing a contract, if you bid every single individual asbestos project and every single individual carpeting and every single individual wall covering, and every time you want to do everything you do in the building, which is lots and lots and lots of things every day, there's a time cost to that, a significant time cost. We don't have extra time. And the reason that we do statewide is for that reason. There are probably some things where it's more reasonable to do statewide than not. I think in general it's more reasonable to do them when you have a lot of small jobs. And one of the things you hope to do is find both operational efficiency and cost savings. Those would then be bid, and you would have people do them. If the quarrel is whether or not we do a statewide, that's one question. If the quarrel is how this contract was bid, it's the second. And I do want to address that too, because this was bid perfectly appropriately in every way. Nothing was done wrong. Nobody was treated the least little tiny bit unfairly. And I think that there's a contract presented to the council in December. It was bid. Councilor Gatsas quite appropriately said, I think you might have awarded it to the wrong vendor. The bid sheet was a very small font, and we tabled it to go back and look at it. Our staff went back and looked at it, and one of the things we discovered is an anomaly in the bidding process. Does this happen? Yes. Is it a mistake? It absolutely is. But one of the things that happens in life is that people make mistakes. There is a process in the state for correcting a mistake. You must cancel that bid. We have no choice but to cancel that bid. We did cancel that bid. We went out to bid again. Everybody who could bid on the bid, who might have, it happened to be the same 2 people, We're well aware of what had happened. We're following the process intently. They had the same information. That bid process was 100% fair, with nothing done erroneously or wrong. Somebody else won. It happens to be that the company won is not the company that my staff constantly works with. So we love the existing my people. They love our people. I think they're great. They love working with them. They know them. They've been around a lot. But they didn't win the bid. And the deal with competitive bidding is that sometimes you put it out to bid and somebody else wins. And you suck it up and go with that, because that's fair. And what's not fair would be to say, oh, God, that stings. Let's find a reason to not give it to them. And so we don't do that, right? We don't do that. Now, if you say to me, no, don't bid things in lump. Okay, that's something. That's a policy choice, and that's something we can do. We will then go back and do that. Projects will take longer. I'll have annoyed people back to the office, and that's okay. But I just want to make sure that that's one choice. But did we do anything wrong here? Not one little thing.
Kind of like that for one.
Sorry, Councilor, then I'll
Well, it just needs to follow up on that. If they did do something wrong, they disqualified the bidder who apparently was qualified. So that was...
Process that, as much as I wish it weren't, the case, that it turned out the way it turned out, it was, everyone who bid had all the information in order to get at the time of the second bid. And I think it would set a bad precedent for this council to be sort of picking and choosing winners and losers by rejecting contracts that we don't like for no principled reason. I think that the process was not flawed here. And so I support 100% what you're saying, and I'm going to support this.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of item, formerly table item 152, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? No. Okay, with that, the item does pass. And we're out of items. Okay. So we have a few table items to take up at the next meeting, but with that we will formally adjourn or close the meeting.